All right, this is the writing exercises on Nitro 5.6, distance conversions. So we need to be able, we have a constructor, and we need to be able to convert a distance from miles to kilometers, yards, feet, and to get the value of miles. So in the distance class, we need one variable, which is a double, and it's called miles. And then we need a constructor, so that's going to be public distance. And the constructor is going to take a number of miles, which is a double. And we're just going to initialize our instance variable to equal that parameter that is passed to us, which is start miles. Then we need some methods. We need a double 2 kilometers, and we're just simply going to return the number of miles converted to kilometers. And the way we convert to kilometers is we divide by 0.62137. So that's simple enough. And then we need a public double 2 yards. And to turn miles into yards, we multiply by 1,760. So we're going to return that value. Then we need a public double 2 feet. And to turn miles into feet, we multiply by 5,280. I need the word return there. And then we need a public double get miles, which is simply going to return the number of miles. Okay, so I think that's all we need within the distance class. Then in the distance tester, they want us to create 3 distance objects. So distance, we're going to call one of them school, and this is going to be new distance, and all we got to do is pass it a number of miles, and it says that Carol lives 5 miles from school, so that's going to be a distance 5. Distance from Carol to the park, new distance. Carol to the park is 10 miles, and then distance Carol to Bestie, that's a new distance, and that's going to be 12 miles. So convert one of them to kilometers, one of them to yards, one of them to kilometers, one of them to feet. So system.out.println school.get yards. System.out.println kilometers, Carol lives from the park, so park.get, not get, 2 kilometers. I think I want this one up here to be kilo. I want this one to be 2 also. And then system.out.println how far she lives from her best friend in feet. So let's see what that does. I think that's all that we wanted it to do. Now, I think they intended for us to save these values in new variables and then print them out down here, do it in 2 phases, but I've kind of done it all in one here. But I think that's all that they wanted us to do with that class and those methods. Okay, so that's Nitro 565. Let's go on to Nitro 566, a food app demo. So they want us to create or implement the food class. And I'm not sure why they have these double indented. Declare the instance variables. It should have name and calories. So we need a string called name, and we need an int called calories, and therefore our constructor, public food, should take a string, which is the name of the food, and should take an int, which is the calories of the food. And then the name instance variable we will just set equal to the name parameter, and the calories instance variable we will set equal to the calories parameter. I think that's all we need there. Should use name and calories in that order. You should create getters and setters for these variables. So we need a public string get name, which is just going to return name, and then we should have a public void set name, which takes a string value, which is going to be the new name, and then we will set our name instance variable equal to that parameter they pass us, in case they want to change the name after creating this food item. Then we need a public int get calories, which will simply return the number of calories. And then we need a public int set calories. Sorry, not a public int, a public void set calories. And that's just going to set that requires a parameter, which is an integer, which is going to be the calories. And we're just going to set our instance variable calories equal to the parameter the calories. Something like that. So we have a food class name. You should create getters and setters for these variables. You also need a toString method that will be used in the line before you ask for quantity. So getter and setter, let me copy this down here. They wanted getter and setter for calories there, and they wanted getter and setter for the name here, and then we need a toString. And then we'll look at how they're implementing toString, but public string toString, and what do we want to return? How many French fries? Your meal will have a total of, let's see, in addition toString where you will have your main method, wait a second, you will need a toString method that will be used in the line before you ask for the quantity. So right here, we want to return the name of the food and then the word have preceded by a space, and then then we want the number of calories, but then we need the word calories preceded by a space to print out something like that. So there's our toString for the food, the name of the food, and it have, don't know why they're saying have, but instead of has, but have that many calories. Okay, so that's all behind the scenes creating the food class. We're going to, over here in the main, let's create the 3 food items that they created. So let's say food ham equals new food with the name of hamburgers, and calories of 600. And then let's make a new food object called fry. New food object with the name French fries. Looks like they capitalized both. 350 calories. And then another food object, food Coke. And that'll be a new food item with the name Coke, capitalized, and 200 calories. So it looks like we can say system.out.println ham. And then we'll ask them for some input in a second. But let's print out fry just to check things out. Let's print out Coke just to check things out and make sure everything's running correctly. Okay, so I think that's printing out the way we need that to print out. So now we need a scanner object. Scanner, my input equals new scanner system.in. Then, according to their assignment, we're going to say this thing about hamburgers have how many calories, and then system.out.println how many would you like? Question mark. And then int, we'll call this ham number, equals my input dot next int. Okay, then again, system, we're going to print fry, and then we're going to say almost exactly the same thing we said there. System.out.println how many would you like? And this is going to be an integer called fry num. And then we'll print out Coke and ask how many would you like? And then Coke num. And then the meal will have this many calories. So what we should print is something like this. Or maybe we can do this as a separate calculation. Int meal calories equals the ham number times ham dot get calories plus fry number times fry dot get calories, and then plus the Coke number times the Coke dot get calories. So that's going to be my variable called integer meal cal. So now I'm going to say system.out.println your meal will have a total of meal cal space calories. I think that's what we want. Now let's do 2, 1, and 2 and see if the numbers come out the same as theirs. 2, 1, 2, 1950 calories, 1950 calories. It looks like we've got an extra space in between there. So when I check it, they might knock me down for not having that extra line break or space in there. But it looks like we're okay on that one. So that's Nitro 5.6.6. Now moving on to Nitro 5.6.7, which is the car class. So we're going to have to write or implement the car class, very similar to what we did before, except now it's about cars instead of about food and meals. So starting off with the card class, the car class should have the following instance variables, they say. Private double efficiency, private double gas, private double tank capacity, private double total miles driven. And our constructor, public. It just dawned on me that in our last two lessons here, in the distance class, this should have said private also. That instance variable should have said private. And in our food app demo, both of these also should have said private. It ran without error without that, but those instance variables should always say private, and I forgot that. Okay, so back to the car class. Oh, I did not save. Oh my gosh. Okay, private double efficiency, private double gas, private double tank capacity, and private double total miles driven. Then our constructor, public car, we need all of those instance variables. So we need a double for the, I'm just going to put EFF for efficiency, double the gas, double the tank, and double the total. I don't know if we need to initialize total or not, but there we go. So the constructor, oh, they say right here, the constructor, they just want the car efficiency and the tank capacity. So our instance variable efficiency will be set equal to the efficiency parameter that they passed us. The instance variable tank capacity will be set equal to the tank value that they gave us. And that means that gas will start off at 0 and total miles driven will start off at 0 by default. So the methods that we need to implement, there are many. Public void add gas. This method should fill the car up with gas to the tank capacity and should print system.out.println filling up space ... Okay, so fill the tank with gas to its capacity. So gas equals tank capacity. So we don't need a parameter to be passed because we already know the capacity of the tank. So when we add gas, we're making the gas variable equal to the tank capacity. Next up, public void add gas with a double, which is an amount. So we're overloading this add gas method. Now the add gas method is going to take a double amount, and now we're going to say this method should add the amount to the tank, but we got to be careful to not go over the tank capacity. And either way, the method should say system.out.println, notice this time we're saying adding gas, not filling up. So we're going to say this first of all. Let's say gas plus equals the amount that they're telling us to add to the tank. However, let's do a little if statement. If that makes the gas amount greater than the tank capacity, then we should just make the gas equal to the tank capacity. That line, that little if statement right there will prevent us from ever having more gas in the tank than the tank capacity. Because if we're going to add whatever amount is, if that takes us over the tank capacity, then we'll just reset to the tank capacity. But either way, we're going to say we're adding gas. I feel like that should say filling up if we get here, but they didn't say that. So they just said it should say adding gas. Okay, then the next one is a public double get total miles driven, and that's just going to return our instance variable total miles driven. No math to do there whatsoever. Public void drive with a double precision variable called distance. So this one's going to have a little bit more interesting stuff going on. So first of all, it checks if the car can drive that many miles, and then adds miles to the total miles driven and subtracts the amount of gas needed to drive those miles. So the miles we can drive, the miles we're allowed to drive, is the gas we have in the tank times the efficiency. Is it an I? Efficiency. So, for example, if we have 10 gallons in the tank and we're getting 30 miles per gallon, then we can drive 300 miles. So the gas we have in the tank times the efficiency tells us how many miles we can drive. So what we want to say is, if the distance they're trying to get us to go is less than or equal to the distance that we are allowed to go, which is our gas in our tank times the fuel efficiency of the car, then, so I'm reading right here now, then we will add this distance to the miles driven. So we're going to say total miles driven plus equals distance, and subtract the amount of gas. So remember, I had said that the miles we can drive is the gas we have in the tank times the efficiency. So if we turn that around a little bit, that will give us that the gas we use is the miles we drive divided by the efficiency. So the gas we have in the tank is going to be reduced by the miles we just drove, which is the variable or the parameter distance, divided by efficiency. So distance in miles divided by efficiency will tell us how much gas we burned, and we're going to subtract that from our gas variable. And then while we're doing all that, the method should display system.out.println driving, and then that distance that they passed as a parameter, driving that distance. That's it. Bam. But if the distance that they want us to drive is farther than we can drive on the gas that we have in the tank, then we're going to say that this system.out.println can't drive distance, and then a period and a space, that's too far, exclamation mark, and don't change the instance variables at all in that case. So that was a little bit more of an involved method. And then we need a couple other ones. Public Boolean can drive, which also requires a distance in miles, returns true if the car has enough gas to travel the specified distance. So, return true if the gas in the tank is greater than or equal to the distance they want us to drive divided by efficiency. Or we could say if the gas in the tank times the efficiency is greater than or equal to the distance that they want us to drive. So if the gas times the fuel efficiency, let's say 10 gallons of gas times 30 miles per gallon, that's 300 miles. If that's greater than or equal to the distance that they want us to drive, then we'll return true, meaning we can drive that. But if it's less than that distance, then we can't drive that. And then another public double miles available, doesn't take a parameter, should just return the number of miles the car can drive, which is the gas that's in the tank times the efficiency of that car. So we're just going to return that value. And then finally, public double get gas, and that's just going to return how much gas is left. It's just going to return the value of our gas variable. They didn't say anything about a toString method. Now, the other thing I was going to say is, since they had us create this Boolean method here, then instead of saying, let me get rid of my little notes here, instead of saying what we said in this if, we could make that if a little bit more easy to read, I guess I would say, because we're checking this right here, we're checking that exact same thing down here. So we could say, instead of saying this, we can make a call to this other method, and we can say if can drive distance. If we're able to drive the distance they gave us, then do all of this. Otherwise, do all that. So we haven't created anything over in the tester yet, but let's see if we are running without an error for right now. It's not going to do anything because there's no code written here. Okay, so now creating both the car and the car tester, be sure the example code you'll need to have additional conditional statement in the drive method to determine if you can drive the correct distance. I think we did that. So let's create a car that gets 20 miles per gallon and has a 15-gallon tank. So car, let's say car 1 equals new car, and in our car constructor we're supposed to give the efficiency and the tank size. So the efficiency is 20 miles per gallon, tank size is 15 gallons. So that's done. Fill up the tank, then we're going to just say add gas with no parameter. So we're going to say car 1, add gas. And that's it. Nothing to print or anything. Check the miles available. So then, now in our miles available, it just returns the number of miles. So we're going to have to say something like this, system.out.println, and then we're going to say miles available, colon, space, end quote, add car 1 dot miles available, double parentheses. Okay, let's run that so far and see how that looks. Okay, filling up. Miles available 300. This looks good. Okay, then drive 100 miles. Car 1 dot drive. That's all we got to say. Car 1 dot drive, and in parentheses 100 miles. And then again, check the miles available. So let's just print that out every time we have to check the miles available. Okay. Then add 2 gallons to the tank. So car 1, add gas again, just like we did up on this line, but now we're adding a specific amount of gas. We're adding 2 gallons, if possible. And then try driving more miles than available by driving 1,000 miles. So let's try this. Car 1 dot drive 1,000. So it's probably going to tell us we're not allowed to drive that. And then let's drive a more doable amount of miles, like 200. Check how much gas you have left. So how do they want that to print out exactly? Gas remaining. So system.out.println gas, capitalized, gas remaining, colon, space, end quote, plus sign, our car dot get gas, I believe is the name of the method. Our car dot get gas right there. Okay. And then print the total miles driven. So system.out.println total, capitalized, miles, capitalized, driven, colon, space, end quote, add car 1 dot get total miles driven, double parentheses in that. Let's see if we did all of that correctly with no glitches. And hopefully this matches their sample printout in the assignment. Filling up miles available 300, that looks good. Driving 100, miles available 200. Driving 100, miles available 200. Adding gas, and then miles available 240. Adding gas, that says miles available 260. Okay. Can't drive 1,000, that's too far. Can't drive 1,000, that's too far. Driving 200, gas remaining 2 gallons. Driving 200, gas remaining 3. Total miles driven 300. Total miles driven 300. I think this is okay. When they said add gas, they said here add 2 gallons, and that's what we did. So let's check this and see if this is legit. Okay, check the sample output. What is the difference? Wow, I put can't dive. Oh, that's awesome. Out of all that, that's the only thing we missed. Can't dive. Nice. Can't drive. Okay, check the code. Hopefully it's all green now. Okay, so that's it for Nitro 5.6. I'll catch you guys later on Nitro 5.7.